Morning, everybody. We are here live with Coach Shockley and our interview with Mike Dole, the advanced player / interview with Mike Dole this week. I'm going to pan over to Coach so that he can give you an introduction with Mike here.
Hello, Mike. How are you?
Morning, sir.
Good to see you again. Mike's one of our premier players here in Rockford, as well as our Pro Shop manager over at Don Carter Lanes for BowlersMart. Just want to go over some things with Mike. I really met him a couple of years ago when I moved here to Rockford. Great player. Mike, you grew up here in Rockford. Just tell us a little bit about when you bowled your juniors all the way up to where you are now.
Started juniors as two. Big brother bowled, so mom started working junior leagues, and then I started bowling. Had to keep up with big brother, and we bowled so much that mom had to take over a junior program to afford us bowling.
Oh yeah.
Started at two, bowled all the way through middle school, high school. Luckily, high school led to college scholarship at Lindenwood University, and then now, we bowled my whole life.
Bowled your whole life. Congratulations, by the way,
Thanks,
on
sir.
your second PBA regional.
Thanks,
Where
sir.
was
Appreciate
that? Where was that one at?
That was in Peru, Illinois, about 3 weeks ago. We bowled on Viper and had a pretty good look with the Storm Pitch Black, and ended up leading step ladder and then beating PBA titleist Eugene McCune in the final, which was pretty cool.
Oh yeah.
Because we've seen him on TV a couple times. And
Yeah, he used to get those pretty slow.
yeah, he likes to throw it fast. Let me tell you,
Yeah.
it hurts every time I watch him throw it.
He throws the heater, but
Yeah.
yeah, I also wanted to bring to the point here. I've been in this game a long time, and this is pretty cool. Okay, sanctioned 300s. Give us the number.
127.
Did you hear that? 127 numbers. Here comes another one. This is pretty impressive. All right, give me the 800s.
97.
97.
I had no idea the number was
So
that high.
that's a lot of numbers. I don't know how much Bob Learns got, but you got a bunch. How do you see that in the early days? I just want to know, when you focus on 300, what goes through here?
There's a lot of things, especially nowadays, that a lot more people have honor scores. I still feel like I still get the heart beating a little bit, 300, 800. I still want to shoot that score. I know, the numbers are a little more inflated just because the scores are a little softer, but to me that's still an important number no matter what it's on. Especially 800, because you still got to repeat shots. You still got to, go out there and get it. It's fun for me every time I shoot 800.
Oh yeah, when you get into the 12th one, is it just like the first frame? What goes through your mind?
Yeah.
People get nervous when they shoot 300. So how do you do this?
Mentally for me, when I start getting to the 11th and the 12th one, you just got to tell yourself that it's just another frame. I have a little mental itch that I like to throw it hard. The 12th one, I want to make sure I get it there. So I make a small move to the left.
Really?
Just because I feel like that's my game. I like to throw it a little harder, like to slow it down, shut it down in front of me. I always move like a half to the left, just if I zoom it, I don't 7-pin.
Wow, that's pretty cool. All attempts I've had, I've yanked it left for 4 298s. Maybe I ought to move in because that's cool.
Yeah.
All right. You know what we wanted to do today? A lot of bowlers know you in the local area, and you bowl all over in tournaments. You go quite a bit. How much do you get out of our shop?
This time of year, it's pretty hard just because of high school bowling on the weekends and stuff like that. I try and get out every Sunday that I can. We get one day off a week. Cliff lets us off,
Right.
Saturdays are pretty hard, but, at summertime I hit it pretty hard. I think I was in 7 different states this summer, going to the Masters in February. I try and hit everything I can. I chose this life instead of the tour life of chasing it just because, I like that sense of security. I wish it was the 90s where there was more tour stops, but...
Sure.
I get out and bowl as much as I can, and I got to try to make a living.
Are there a pretty good turnout on the regional circuit up here? How many guys usually show up? I know in the South we used to get a really good turnout where I'm from in Atlanta, but what's it like up here?
The Midwest regions have been struggling over the past couple of years. I don't know if it's because the central draw is more players, so the Midwest guys go that way. Maybe it's the lack of PBA cooperation or dates. That's the main reason why I don't have my card is just to get it up here. It's they're one-day events, they're small fields. I think the last regional I had maybe 40 in it.
Okay.
The regional I won last year had 48 in it. It was just
Right.
it's smaller fields, but it just it still feels good to win, especially against the best.
Here in Rockford, we've got a lot of kids, high school program, middle school program, and with BowlersMart here with AJ and Mike. Tell us about, and also you work with some one of the colleges here in this region is a Robert Morris?
I've worked with a lot of talent. Robert Morris University, when Matt Gasson and Ryan Zagar and Marshall Kent were there, I did a lot of their stuff. University of Whitewater, we sponsored their team, who's been top 10 in the nation for the last couple of years. Rock Valley, starting back up the program, doing a lot of stuff for St. Ambrose. Just a lot of schools that we have. This community is so good at sending kids away to bowl that we take care of a bunch of them.
And you've taken care of a lot of our superstar kids here in, Brad Summers' son, Nick Summer, and Jake. Tell us a little bit about these two stars here.
We got two up-and-coming kids. Jake Nims, who's like a little brother to me. His older brother's my best friend. I've known him since he was born. The kid he's just physically gifted. I mean, he's good at baseball. He throws like an 85-mile-an-hour fastball. I mean, and he's just a strong lefty with talent. He's hard to beat. I mean, finished first at state, breaking the record average in 250 for 9 games. Had a pretty good, set last year, -1 set. Nick just loves the bowl. I mean, he doesn't get cheated. He's got all the talent in the world. He just, that's what he wants to do. And, just committed to Wichita as a junior, which is a pretty big deal.
By the way, Nick here in Rockford was recently, he's a junior, and he was accepted with a scholarship to Wichita State, which is pretty cool, right?
That's a pretty big deal. I mean, the local guys around here, the main gone to Wichita was Jesse Buss. And then that's the program. I mean, no matter if you get to start or not, that program's going to make you a better bowler. And, I mean, it's proven over the years, the talent that's come out of there.
Well, we wanted to know something about your game. We know about all the 300s and 800s, but as far as I'm concerned, you have by the way, you're in Storm, right?
Storm Myrtle Grip, yes.
Congratulations.
Yep, thanks, sir. Yeah, last June. Yeah, Don Rose took care of me. They, it was time that, I've loved their stuff for the past 3-4 years since I became a free agent, and, it was just time for me when I started traveling to understand equipment in the same company. Because when you start mixing up companies, every company has their different motion, and then when you go, you have certain brands that do different things, it kind of throws twists in the bag.
Right.
So I felt like locking my motions down has made my bag better, and in the last 6 months, I've had more victories and more success than I could ever imagine. So I mean, I think it's just compliment to the equipment and how great it is.
This matches up for you.
Oh, absolutely, yep.
Well, we would like to know a little bit, Mike, about how you set up an arsenal now that you've got Storm in your bag, and where you see the lanes, how you play the lanes, and what you need to line up as far as what your bag shows us.
Especially for me, whoever hasn't seen me bowl, I'm a pretty high-speed, dominant lefty with a little bit of drift. Just growing up on Old Guardian, couldn't go up the lane, so worked on that for the years. But a lot of the time for me is I like to keep it in front of me the best I can.
Would you explain that a little bit? Keeping it in front of you.
Keep it in front of me, yeah, perfectly. What I like to do is I like to see my angles a little straighter. I don't like to give it away as much. Because as a left, you don't have as much of that bump area, where the right the track seems to be more defined, and you can throw it away more and have it come back. Where on the left, whether lefties are lower rev rate, so they don't beat up the track as much, or they like to play further left with shiny stuff,
right?
So the track's never really defined. So with my rev rate being a little bit higher, sometimes I have to open up my angles more than I like to. But if I can shut it down and throw it a little bit harder, that's typically my A game. Keeping my angles, not really throwing it over my right foot, but keeping it shut down as much as I can.
Okay. Well, let's look at your bag as far as your arsenal and what you see. What are you setting up now in your bag?
Oh, I mean, if we go through anything, IQ Tour solids. I just drilled number 11. That ball for me has been.
Oh yeah.
I've made more money with that ball. I mean, it just works. It's a benchmark ball. It's been around now, going on the 5th year for Storm. It's one of those things like a high road. High roads are in my bag every tournament I go to, just because it's predictable and benchmark. Other stuff in my bag right now are, the Phase 2 just came out, strong, symmetric, with my ball speed works out pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
Another ball that, the No Rules, Road Grip No Rules, for something with a little bit heavier volume that, when I get to throw it, it seems to work out pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
So it just depends on what we're on. I mean, the regional, I threw a pitch black, I threw urethane. It was a shorter pattern. I was able to, put some surface on it and stay left and not get myself in trouble, because on the shorter patterns, when you throw the shiny stuff, it can tend to get you in trouble.
Great. You throw some urethane usually here locally in town?
I've thrown it locally in town when we've bowled a couple of the All-Star tournaments last year, or 2 years ago. The Player of the Year tournament, they put out one of the B patterns at Forest Hills, and Forest Hills is a high-friction HPL surface.
Right.
And I was able to put 500 on a urethane ball and not move right a 5, and it was, I like to when I can do that, and not very often do I get to throw it slow and get all of it at the bottom. It's pretty fun.
He gets all of it. I'm going to tell you what. He's probably got 450 rev rate. He can amp it up 18 miles an hour. A lot of your shots I see, just to watch you here in Rockford, Mike throws most all of his shots flush. He hits the pocket so hard, and he gets a lot of shakers, with the high rev rate. He gets the head pin going, did I miss anything? Did I miss anything? 3 times across the rack. But he really, really gets on it pretty good. But he can back off, too.
I try to.
A little bit.
Yeah, that's what I've worked on most of. I've been self-taught till I was about 18, and then started working with some coaches. Rich Weber when I was down at Lindenwood, Randy Lightfoot. I've worked with you a few times, worked with other coaches. Because as a kid, all I did was hook it. I couldn't if I saw second arrow, it was because I was throwing it at it from fourth arrow.
Different from the left side a little bit.
Right? Yeah. And I think a lot of it was built on the surface. We had Guardian wood at Carter's for most of my childhood, and for a while, I was having people put chairs on the approach, trying to play left, and I'd like to play further left. Just with my heavy ball roll and getting into it, that sometimes I'm not able to, but I can still, open up the lane when I can.
Sure. Well, recently you won the award here, the All-Star, the Player of the Year, and you won, enough points for that?
Yeah, we in Rockford, we have what we call as All-Star points. You get points based on league scores and league averages.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the third Bowler of the Year, and then the Player of the Year tournament we just had past weekend that I won for the third time, which I guess is the first time ever.
Okay, here's the numbers that he's got here as far as average in Rockford. All right, bro, go back 3 years, and what was the winning averages for all three? Go ahead.
3 years ago, high average was 247.8.
Next year?
248.
248.
Last year was 249.7.
Oh, we almost cracked 250.
Trying to.
And this is pretty much a full season number.
Yeah, this is, last year 249 was 124 games. We bowl a 4-game league on Monday, and that was a lot of fun.
Wow.
I try to make a push at the end.
That's a lot of 700s through the years, guys. You shoot about 800 every other 2 weeks. So
it seems to be that way recently.
Yeah.
6 in the last 10 days or something like that.
6 in the last 10 days.
Something like that. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Well, you still got to hit your target. You got to play the lanes the right way. AJ, is there any questions coming in here for Mike from out there?
Yeah, I'd say if we're getting somebody who's becoming advanced, what balls would you want to suggest to a bowler, especially with the Storm products that you deal with?
Oh,
is there
awesome. We have a bunch of products. There's a couple of them right behind us that look really good. More advanced bowlers, if you're looking for something down lane, something strong, Snap Lock's been in my bag since it came out. I've drilled a couple of them. I just put holes in the Code Black yesterday. Got to throw a little bit of leak, but last night there was a little bit of oil leak, so didn't get a really good look at it, but from the looks of it, it's pretty good. These are going to be our big high-end back-end balls. Guys that like to throw a little harder or want something a little more even, Phase 2 is the ball. Really reminds me of one of the older Secret Agents, Special Agents, kind of really smooth and predictable, but it's got a bigger core to it, so it can handle, heavier ball speeds, or if you have that heavier volume house pattern where it's really wet dry in the middle, it blends it out very, very well. There's some other stuff that's behind us. These are my babies right here. Unfortunately, this one's going away, so if you need an IQ Tour 30 and you like it, go grab it now. But that ball is really good for those medium oil house shot patterns because it really sees the end of the lane. And then IQ Tour Solid, I think anybody that bowls tournaments or needs something benchmark in their bag, that's by far the best ball on the market, I believe.
I know Nick's had a couple of those too in his career also.
Yep.
Any other things coming in, AJ, for Mike?
There is actually a random question that we as staffers end up getting a lot.
Right.
Wondering how you got the Storm staff job and
yeah, it was pretty easy. I was a non-staffer for about 3 years off of another brand, fresh out of college, and I've been running a pro shop. You're in contact with staff position, our brand managers is what we call them, our DSMs, and me and Doan had a really good relationship, and it was May, and I finally kind of talked it over myself that I was like, it's time to settle down. It's you're going around all the ball companies getting bowling balls for the last few years. That I was like, Doan, this is kind of what I'm looking for, and Doan's such a great guy, and he's like, you know what? He goes, and luckily he was just like, I want you on staff, like immediately. I want you on staff, and it's just hard work. You just have to build relationships. it's who you know in this industry, and luckily with BowlersMart, I've been given an opportunity to meet a lot of people, and we put a contract in with Doan, and I got it back within a couple days, and now we're almost going on year 2 here pretty soon.
Year 2, they ask me a lot of times too, how do I get on staff? And they bowl league, they bowl local, but you really got to get out of town and go and showcase.
It's all about working hard. It's all about being able to sell products. I mean, a lot of staffers work in pro shops because you have to sell product. That's the number one goal for the company. That's why they believe that. When I shoot 300 with a bowling ball, a lot of people are like, what are you throwing? They ask all the time, or what do I think is good? If a guy walks shop and says, well, what ball are you throwing? And I tell them no rules, and I tell them why. They've seen what I can do, and it gives them a little bit more evidence. And that's what a staffer does. A good staffer can sell bowling balls and isn't afraid to answer questions. You're out bowling a tournament 3 states away, and somebody says, hey, you're on staff. What do you think of that? Or have you thrown that yet? And you got to have good relationship with people and be willing to talk a lot, because you're a salesman basically. You're getting paid with bowling balls, but you're a salesman.
Got to be out there talking and throwing.
Somebody's asking about, I'm assuming it's the Pearl IQ. The yellow says, how is the yellow IQ?
Okay, yellow IQ was really good for me. I got a couple of them right at the end. If you like the Pearl IQ, the 30 is very comparable. It's the same ball, just a little bit different color, so it actually is a little bit earlier, which for me with my ball speed, the 30 actually matched up a little better because the gold one was full shine, and gold tends to make a ball go a little bit longer from what I've seen history with bowling balls. So if you like the gold one and you want to replace it, I would get a 30 before they're gone because they have been discontinued. But other than that, a good replacement is going to be the new Roto Grip Daredevil. It's going to fit right in the middle there, right in between like the old Marvel Pearl and the IQ 30 from what I've seen so far. I just put holes in that too, so I'm excited to throw that in the next couple days.
Great.
Michelle and Daryl, hopefully I said that right, said so proud of you. Steven Smith says, do you have an opinion about the Brunswick BTU?
Brunswick BTU, from what I've seen, is something to step up from urethane. It's a little bit stronger. I've seen some people open up the lanes with it. I've seen people that, personally I don't get to throw it, and we've sold a few of them around town. But it's another option. I mean, urethane's coming back into play. A lot of guys are throwing it on tournament patterns just to control the back ends. It doesn't give you that violent over-under reaction that sometimes reactive does. And when you want to be careful, I know Anthony Simonson had a big block at the U.S. Open this week when he wanted to stay out a little bit instead of jumping in. That he threw urethane out. He threw urethane at the Masters last year. I mean, urethane's becoming a big thing. Jesper Svensson he's running people over with urethane.
Oh, yeah.
I think any tournament player should have a urethane ball of some sort in their bag, no matter how you throw it.
Yeah, definitely. Patrick Johnson says, hi, Mike. Mike Rothermel, talk more about Jake's older brother. I hear he's pretty cool.
He used to be pretty good. He was the first one that won Bowler of the Year 3 times.
Oh, really?
He was a pretty good player right when we got out of high school. He went an adult right away. Throwing in the old Fire Quantum, not the new one, the old one. Oh. Full roller, too.
Full roller?
Yeah.
Holy
he struck a lot back in the day. Now he's retired.
Back when I bowled. Okay. Yeah. Good. Better.
So far, just some people that have joined in, but no other questions other than that, really?
Yeah. So far. Any other questions like arsenal building or you want to go over anything like that? Or?
Well, I think you've covered what you do.
Okay.
Anything else you want to throw out, AJ? Been over a lot here.
No, I would say maybe this would be a time to ask questions about the idea since you've done so much of the college stuff. What stuff do you see throughout a lot of your college drills that you do for kids that come in?
College, it's all about preparation, being prepared to listen. I mean, you have to, as any kid, you have to be coachable to go do that because everybody's, some of these kids, I'm not going to lie, I was a little bit of a spoiled brat as a kid. I didn't want to listen. But then when you go out and see these kids and you're getting beat every weekend, you want to get better. And these kids have so many more options nowadays. I mean, we barely had sport patterns. I mean, my first junior gold, I didn't know what a sport pattern was. We bowled on 28 feet at a center in Florida, and I had no idea I didn't know what to do. But these kids have so many more options now with patterns and availability of bowling balls and technology and coaches for that fact that it's all about just going out and getting reps in, and you just got to put the hard work in. I mean, I put a lot of hard work in, especially from, when I started getting coaching from 18 to 22, 23, that, I was bowling. I mean, I still put in 60 to 80 games a week with league and practice and just trying to stay sharp because those guys out there, those guys are better than me. I mean, There's a reason why Jason Belmonte and Chris Barnes are as good as they are. I mean, it's just how good they are.
I mean, a lot of people ask me one thing about the top pros, and I don't know if you can pinpoint it for what goes on. Like, the great guys, what is it you think's that little bit of edge or that's different? Duke and Pete, whoever, and Parker. What do you think the little bit of what they got is?
It's all mental. It's 1,000. I mean, obviously they all have the feel. Pete's feel is unbelievable. He's got a stretch span, and there's no grab in it. Norm leaves the hole sharp, but a lot of it's mental. I mean, there's so many guys out there with physically gifted bowlers, but the guys that are mentally strong are the ones that survive, that can handle the pressure moments. And I've been victim to that in my past. I've made some bad shots and doubted my abilities at certain times if I could win or not. But you got to get over that hurdle. I mean, winning the first regional was a big hurdle for me mentally, knowing that I can compete with those guys and not beating myself up. And over the last 3-4 months, I think I've grown in that, not giving up when there's times are down. I mean, there were times at the All-Star tournament, that guys were catching me. I wasn't lined up, but it wasn't over. I mean, I was still there. I mean, you just can't defeat yourself, and that's what I think a lot of guys do. That once the frame's over, it's over. You just have to move on.
You can't move back. But I see Mike, whenever he needs the clutch shot, he comes through.
Definitely.
And he usually knocks it out.
We have a few more questions. Raymond James, greetings. Any word on a no rules Pearl coming to the States?
I hope so. I really like the no rules. I've seen, it's one of those things that it all depends on what Schlem wants to do. I mean, he's the mastermind behind Roto Grip and where it fits. But I wouldn't mind a no rules. I mean, I know we got a lot of strong Pearl stuff in the corporation, as they call it, Roto Grip and Storm.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I wouldn't hate that if that showed up at my doorstep.
Definitely. Sean Harper with a funny one here.
Uh-oh.
Do you think they will ever make another black AMF Ninja?
Didn't they just remake a Ninja?
I think
they did,
I
Sean.
think they
It
did.
might not be as good as that one.
No, not
We
quite.
just got to get you the white XS. You'll be all right.
Right. Our very own Cliff Barnes, how many balls do you take to a tournament?
Perfect. If I'm driving, I take as many as my truck's going to fit.
Oh, my.
Because you never know. Typical tournament, house shot tournament, I'll take 6 to 8 in, just because you never know. But when I go, if I go to Ohio, the Proprietors Cup,
Right.
Billy Ezelt, great tournament in Ohio, I'll bring 20 bowling balls. We're bowling for $25,000 with $100,000 in bracket action. I'm not going to have a ball sitting at home that could work there.
Right.
I mean, I'm going to bring, if I'm driving, but like when I go to the Masters, I'll probably ship 8 bowling balls out there.
Okay.
I mean, obviously there's the availability of the truck, but I'll probably take 8. Usually if I'm flying, I only take 6. But
Right.
luckily we have BowlersMart in Vegas that I can ship some bowling balls
Sure.
to. And but yeah, I say a typical tournament arsenal's got to be at least 8, just to
Right.
cover every basis from plastic to urethane, to cover all your bases.
A lot of players here, particularly in junior gold, they can only have a limit of 5 balls.
5 balls, yeah.
Have you ever considered not throwing polyester and throw urethane for spares?
I just think that if the best spare shooter to ever throw it throws plastic,
Mm-hmm.
I've always been a firm believer of plastic. I wish that I was good enough to. I mean, the feel of plastic it's a little more security.
Okay.
I think some of the newer urethane balls hook a little bit too much for me at the tail end.
Mm-hmm.
If I had one of the older urethanes, maybe.
Right.
But that's something that I mean, if I necessarily had to, like if I had to go overseas and only got a limit of certain,
Mm-hmm.
or if I was starting college now, I'd probably practice a little more with shooting just to take that ball out of my bag.
Okay.
But I just like the plastic takes the lane out of play.
Got it. Anybody else?
There are a couple more, but before we get past the idea of the tournament ball, since you did bring up the idea of urethane, plus the idea that you take 8 bowling balls and more to tournaments.
Right.
There's a lot of people that will discuss that the back in the day idea, well, we only had 1 ball to deal with. Now the actual change in the way that the technology has gotten to, people may hate or dislike it one way or the other, but it is the way the game is. What do you?
The way I look at it is, if you're a golfer, you're not going to take a putter and a driver to a golf course.
Yeah.
I feel like nowadays that there's so many unforeseeable things on the lane between, oil, the thickness, the length, what surface you're on.
Yeah.
I mean, we bowl on HPL here in town where everything tends to hook a little bit, but if you go to Pro-Am lane, that same pattern is going to play 5 feet longer.
Right.
So you have to play for that, and it's like, get on the green. Sometimes it's a little rough. You need a chipping wedge. I mean, I just feel like people sometimes live too much in the past and realize, oh, well, we struck with 1 ball. Well, lanes were a lot different back then. I mean, it goes from, it used to be a thimble of oil to now it's a shot glass. I mean, that's a big difference.
Right.
And people just have to realize that it's not the 1980s anymore, and we need to go forward and open up our eyes to realizing that there are different times for different situations. I mean, it's about ready to get negative degrees outside pretty soon.
Oh, yeah.
And that's going to make the oil do different things.
Like what?
The oil for me in the winter it gets colder quicker because the bowling alleys tend to be quicker. So it actually cools down sometimes, and it makes them better. You know, when it's hot, the oil never gets a chance to set,
Right.
and it moves around a lot. Where it gets cold, you know, the oil tends to, you know, like we have when the league sets here and the oil gets, you know, the oil gets a set for a half hour, league scores tend to go up because the oil's not moving around as quick.
Right.
Where after the high school matches and they don't get the oil, and we go as soon as that oiler's done, everything it transitions so much quicker, right and left, that, you know, weather changes everything. And, you know, that's the way I feel. I feel like, you know, there's a reason why there's so many bowling balls on the market and they make so many different types of bowling balls. We just got to take advantage of it.
Definitely. Michelle and Daryl, I still throw my green Dole Swamp Monster from 2001 and 2. Average 170s with it still today. What would you recommend I upgrade to?
Something like that, I would probably put you in something like a Rotogrip Haywire, something pretty early and smooth. The Swamp Monster was a heavy load particle bowling ball, if I remember right. I mean, it was pretty slow, so I mean the Haywire would fit right into that target. I think sounds about right.
Good answer. Thoughts on thumb pitches, advantages, disadvantages of reverse forward thumb pitches under the palm as opposed to away?
You know, thumb pitches all depends on the person's hand and flexibility. As you become a more advanced player, obviously more things come into play. I mean, my full span is 4 and 11 16ths and 4 and 5/8, which is not long but not short. Right now, currently, I am a quarter forward and an eighth right. Just trying to keep me in the ball a little bit longer, but the eighth right allows my thumb to get out a little bit cleaner.
Right.
I'm not, you know, huge reverse, just depends on the player. I mean, there's players that have a lot of reverse that are very successful and don't have a lot of squeeze. But it all depends on the person's hand, and you know, they used to manipulate that with pitches. I know they say Mark Roth's thumb was hamburger because when he would change pitches on the truck. But a lot of it's just, you know, you have to do what's comfortable, and yeah, I mean, forward and reverse, it all depends on, you know, how much flexibility you have and kind of how you feel comfortable in the ball.
Back in my day, Mike, whenever I was, you know, playing quite a bit in the 70s, I guess the process then was everybody had thumb reverse.
Mm-hmm. It was a lot of reverse in the thumb.
It would stretch the grip out.
Yep.
So you ever see some of that?
Yep, it's like half reverse, but there's zero in the fingers, right? So you really get because the bowling balls back then weren't as aggressive. So you had to get up on it.
Had to hit it.
And nowadays it's the revert. You know, you relax the fingers and put less in the thumb, typically, just so the ball doesn't work. Because if you make the ball work too soon, then it burns up, and then it never saves any energy at the end of the lane.
See a lot of great players down in Kegel. They can get the ball into the lane.
Yep.
You know, rather than get it way out over the heads, which sometimes you have to do that.
Right.
Yeah. Chris, boy, I'm never going to get this last name right. Cesarlo, not even going to try.
Close enough.
Yep.
Close enough.
What is your opinion on hooking at spares? I think we kind of did a little bit of this earlier.
Good
Hooking at
question.
spares versus throwing it straight.
Okay, it all depends on what you're comfortable with. I'm a big fan of throwing it straight and hard at plastic, every single pin, anything without a sleeper. I do it, especially I tend to do it a lot. It's a bad habit on house shots. I tend to hook at my right side spares, but I shoot straight and hard at everything on the left. But on sport patterns, I tend to throw everything straight and hard. I should probably just incorporate it in a whole year round, but sometimes you get a little lazy at league. But yeah, I'm a big fan of just doing it hard and straight and everything. Sleepers are a whole nother beast that sometimes you have to hook at it, but majority wise, hard and straight's the way to go.
Okay.
Do you use finger inserts?
I do. I am on vice staff. I use the power ovals, a little bit of lift just so I can feel the fingers at the bottom a little bit. But yep, I'm on Happy Vice staff now, going on 9 years, 9 years, something like that.
Yeah, a lot of national tour players that I've seen have these razor sharp holes. You see much of that?
For years I was no grips, razor sharp. If I took the edge off of them, I felt like it wasn't the point of it. And then, you know, as my flexibility got a little bit worse, I just couldn't get the right feel anymore. So I went to grips, and then over the last 6 months or so, I've gone to these power ovals that give me a little bit of that edge, kind of like the no grips, but with the softness of grips. And it changed my ball roll a little bit too, which I tend to like. But yeah, I mean, it all depends on your feel and how your hand works. I mean, there's some guys that that don't like the feeling of grips or they tear up their hand.
Mm-hmm.
I'm one of those guys that I love the feeling of no grips, but my hand just isn't allowing me to do it as much anymore.
A little stiffer, huh?
Yeah, a little bit stiffer.
As we get older. Right?
Yep.
Yeah, no, the 2011 I was doing that too. I was trying to do more sharp just so you don't grab it.
Right.
Makes a lot of sense
absolutely.
at least. Dustin Smith says, do you think a low rev bowler could be competitive in regionals, tournaments? The current field is high rev dominant these days, it seems.
You know, it all depends on how hard you work. I mean, there's a lot of low rev guys out there that are still competitive. I mean, Norm Duke isn't considered high rev. Even if you think about it, Pete Weber's not high rev. His ball track just covers the entire ball. Pete's rev rate's only about 325, 350, which isn't very high. It's all about just matching up and getting good at it. You have to be accurate. If you're a low rev player, you know, Walter Ray's low rev. He's got to have the lowest rev rate by 250 at the U.S. Open right now, but he made match play because he's accurate and he can repeat shots. And being a low rev player, you don't create as much open area to throw it to, so you just have to be more accurate and understand your equipment better.
Yeah, definitely. Looks like the questions are kind of dying down finally. Do you guys have any final words you'd like to go over, or any other questions you'd like to?
This has been great information. I really appreciate you coming in here, Mike.
No problem, sir.
Continued success. Continue to shoot 800 every 10 days.
I'm going to do it just for you, Coach.
Okay, buddy.
Looks like we do have one last
Oh,
question.
Okay.
What's up?
Good.
Currently use an unhinged for league, averaging about 200. Looking to start trying to bowl tournaments. What ball would you recommend as an upgrade to start with?
Okay, the unhinged was very, very clean, very, very long, depending on your ball speed. If you like that motion of the unhinged just a little more, I would definitely look into the Code Black when it comes out. Or if you're looking for something sooner than the end of November, it would be the Snap Lock. If your ball speed's a little faster and you want something just a little bit earlier but stronger, you're definitely looking at the Phase 2. Or even if you just want a little bit more, then you'd definitely be looking at the IQ Tour Solid. We just have such a good arsenal of bowling balls that, you know, there's a lot to go up to. If you want something smoother, the Alpha Crux is definitely a big step up, but smoother, where the No Rules is a little more down lane.
Eric Porter says, surface maintenance is very important. Please explain how important it is.
Surface is, you know, I learned this late in life how good surface is. I'm a big fan of Aberlon pads, especially when it comes to dull surface bowling balls. With my ball speed bearing very, you know, on the faster side, I tend to hit every bowling ball I drill with some sort of pad just so I can duplicate the reaction no matter what. Because there's no way, as much as our pro shop guys are trained, to duplicate, like, whatever this finish is out of the box, there's no way to duplicate that just because of how good the finishing process is at the manufacturer. So every one of these drill I tend to hit with like a 3000 pad just so I know what it's going to be like. You know, urethane stuff, you know, especially because you got to use more surface tournament patterns, you know, they call it blowing a hole in the pattern, but I'm a big fan of, you know, 360, 500 on urethane, you know, just to blend out the pattern. Yeah, I go through 2,000 pads like they're tissues. I mean, I use them in league. I use them in league. I use them in everything. So surface prep is, you have to clean your bowling balls. You have to make sure that cover stock, because, you know, if you get a dull ball, it's going to soak up that oil, and if you don't, you know, clean up that cover stock, I mean, it's going to go longer and it's going to hook less. I mean, some bowling balls roll better with lane shine. You might actually get a better shape out of it. And if you do, then you leave it. But if you're not liking the way it's reacting, you got to make sure you take it back to box.
You know, you just said something called lane shine. A lot of people don't know what lane shine is. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, a bowling ball is basically a sponge. It's got all the absorbent goodies on the cover stock. That's what's making the ball hook. By the absorbents making the oil go into the cover stock, it's creating friction with the lane,
right,
which is making it hook. And the lane shine is that oil hardening up in the pores. So it's creating that shine, that fake shine, that's going to create more length, but then your bowling ball isn't creating traction with the lane soon enough. So that's why those $250 bowling balls that, you know, look like they're 500 grit are starting to go longer and longer, and you don't understand, but because you're filling those pores. You know, that's why, you know, surface prep is good. That's why detoxes and resurfaces are key, because you just got to get those pores open, because if those pores are closed, you know, you can't soak up any more water in a sponge when it's all junk and full of stuff.
All filled up. You know, how often do you think that a lot of the league bowlers and students that I work with, Coach, how soon or how many games should I put the ball in detox or get it, you know, pulled out the oil or in a rejuvenator? Or what?
Detox, I say every league season. So that's 100 games. So if you're bowling 3 times a week, that's every 3 months. So it all depends, because you need to take care of that bowling ball. I mean, I always say if it's not broken, don't fix it. You know, guys come in and there's got a little bit of scratches. Are you bowling good? Yeah. Don't mess with it till you bowl bad. But, you know, if the ball's starting to die out a little bit, every 100 games. I mean, these bowling balls, you know, they're getting made softer and softer every year, so they can create more friction with the lane, more hook, so they're going to absorb more oil. They're getting stronger. To make the oil thicker, they have to be stronger, so they're going to soak it up quicker. So you have to make sure that, you know, that you're taking care of it so you can create that optimal ball reaction.
I think 60-65% maybe surface prep is very important. Dynamic
Absolutely.
layouts fall in there, and then the cores, stuff like that.
Absolutely. I mean, cover stock is what 80% of ball reaction right nowadays.
It's a bunch.
You know, another thing that I do is I only use 3 layouts.
Really,
Yeah.
what are those, Mike?
I do it's a 5 1/4 inch pin above my fingers. It's a 4 7/8 below my fingers, and then a little bit stronger pin down just to smooth stuff out. So I typically use only 3 layouts and everything, unless I'm trying to do something, you know, like a 2-inch pin for like a harder pattern or something like that.
Right.
I like to keep things simple. If I drill four of these storm bowling balls with the same layout at different levels, I know what they're going to do from each other, and then I can tweak cover stock to alter it that way. Because I think when you do a lot of people that do like 8 different layouts on bowling balls, you can kind of trick yourself. You get a little too much information in.
Yeah.
Where I like that if I do the same layout on every bowling ball, and just alter the surface and fit them into where they need to be, I get a little more of a consistent. Like I know, like I could run into the paddock and grab that ball and know, hey, this is where it should fit into.
Yeah. Your benchmark ball. What would be that midline ball that you carry?
IQ Tour style. There's 2 or 3. There's 2 or 3 every tournament. I have a 3-ball bag full. I have a 2-inch pin one that I drilled for the Masters last year.
Right.
A little bit stronger, a little smoother down lane, a little closer to my axis.
Right.
And then I have the 4 7/8 pin down with a low hole. That's what, as we call it. We call that the daddy ball. That's the one that's the money maker. And then the pin up one that's I drilled that one just a tad bit stronger just because the core's a little bit weaker. So it's over my ring, but it's got a weight hole in it. Just because those course numbers are a little taller, but for the most part, yeah, there's 3 IQs that basically go wherever I go.
Sounds good. Anything else, AJ?
Yeah, it looks like some people are starting to wake up a little bit.
All right.
Mitchell Hain does the Daredevil match up with Marvel Pearl.
I just got mine in Friday. Haven't got to throw it a whole lot yet, but I'm hoping to throw it at League tomorrow night. The Marvel, it's supposed to be. What Doan tells me, I was just at a Storm seminar yesterday, and Hank kind of compared it to a Marvel Pearl. It's going to fit right in between that IQ 30 Marvel Pearl because the core's a little bigger, cover's a little cleaner. So it's bigger than the IQ, but not as big as the Marvel because the Marvel Pearl, that core was pretty big. I had to drill mine a little bit stronger than I normally do just because the pin length that I got sent, but I think it's going to fit really good in the Marvel Pearl, and I think it'll be just a modern day Marvel Pearl just because the Marvel Pearl was really good, and then as the oil got thicker, it changed. Just like the High Road. The High Road has changed reaction over years just because that cover stock and the oil technology have changed a little bit, the motion. Right. But I'm definitely excited to throw that ball in the next couple days.
You will be with us next week, too. So if we go through that week and you have, Michael or Mitchell wants to chime in a little bit again.
Yeah, I'll have a little more. I'll definitely have a little more knowledge on the Code Black and the Daredevil by next week.
Our very own Will Schnack, Mike Dole is my hero. Heart.
I try.
Eric Porter, I have a friend with an inverted track. What would cause that?
Inverted track is just about how quick your thumb gets out of it. A lot of guys now are trying to get out of it. We have a lot of inverted 2-hander tracks in Rockford. Like they're almost full roller. Inverted track is just how quick you get your thumb out of it. Full roller is when your thumb stays in it longer in your fingers. So the quicker you get your thumb out, it changes the inverted. It depends on your inverted track.
Same person, Eric Porter. How would the layouts change for that?
Layouts change just based on your access point. You have to have your local pro shop operator. Especially with inverted tracks, the pins tend to be a little taller and further out, just so you get the flares off the holes. Yeah. But that's all based on your access point, and you got to go to your local pro shop guy and have it figured out.
Yeah, definitely. Looks like the questions are finally just dissipated a little bit more.
Okay.
Any final thoughts?
Well, one more time, we appreciate you coming. It's great the questions keep coming in because you've got a world of knowledge awesome. Right here.
Definitely.
And I'm standing here learning a lot about the game too. So one more time, Mike, thanks for coming out.
No problem,
we
sir.
Appreciate
Always
you,
a pleasure, Coach.
Appreciate
We'll see you next week.
Okay, buddy.
Good.